You start with saying and spelling your name and giving us your Providence title.
Okay. My name is Stanley Kohan, C-O-H-A-N, and I am the medical director of the Providence Multiple Sclerosis Center.
Perfect. Okay, so you're working to develop an African American MS registry?
Yes, this is going to be a national registry, not just Oregon. We feel this has been a long time coming, that the level of information needed to treat people of African American heritage with MS at the level they deserve to be treated requires our gathering information that so far is wanting and has been wanting for a very long time. This registry will involve the entire United States and multiple neurologists who are experts in the treatment of multiple sclerosis will be in each area responsible for getting patients to join the registry, as well as some national efforts to make the African American community aware of the existence of the registry. We feel this is desperately needed, and in addition to me, 3 other neurologists, all of whom are African American, from other parts of the country, each of whom is an expert in multiple sclerosis, are our partners in developing this registry.
So is anyone enrolled right now? Or?
We are just beginning. As a matter of fact, we're hoping that people will begin to start registering for the registry next Monday, and I'm hoping that we will include the website address on this message so they'll know where to go to join. Well, African American people comprise about 13.5% of our population, yet there has been no serious effort to study multiple sclerosis in African American people. If one looks at scientific papers written about multiple sclerosis in the English language, with over 52,000 papers having been written, I think 112 or so addressed specifically issues related to African American people. This represents a small fraction of 1%. This is simply not acceptable. In other areas of medicine, we know that racial differences matter in terms of different medicines. And we know, for instance, that for African American people, certain medicines used for high blood pressure, as an example, are different in terms of best selection than for non-African Americans. We know nothing of this in multiple sclerosis. This is totally unacceptable. So by creating a large, robust population of patients, and all of this will be done with total confidentiality. People will never have to reveal who they are. We intend to understand special factors that may create greater vulnerability for African American people, such as socioeconomic status, access to care, other diseases going on at the same time. We don't know any of this, and this is disgraceful. So this is what we intend to accomplish. In clinical trials looking at medicines for the treatment of multiple sclerosis, on average, about only 1% of participants in the United States are African American. And again, over 13% of our population is African American. Obviously, every person has to make the individual choice about whether or not they want to be in a trial, but they have to be given a chance to participate. And if they do agree to participate in sufficient numbers, we will finally find out whether some medicines are better than others, whether some medicines carry selective risks for injury, and so on. Again, we don't know any of this, not in any scientifically valid way, and we're hoping that with the creation of a large, robust national registry that includes people of urban environments, people from rural environments, people from the north, people from the south, and so on, we will have a valid overview of the challenges facing African American people who have multiple sclerosis, and then begin to create actionable information so that we begin to take steps that are to the benefit of African American people with multiple sclerosis.
Why are only 1% represented right now?
I think there are a number of reasons for this. Number one, we know that understandably and justifiably, many African American people are very wary of participating in clinical research. There is a very sordid history in this country of things that have been done to African American people, sometimes without even their knowledge. And the most infamous, of course, is the Tuskegee Institute, a study of syphilis in the South. And, that would make a lot of people very, questioning. But we hope to overcome that, but that's one of the reasons. But in addition to that, many people just don't have access to what's going on. And I think in some cases, unfortunately, there's actually been bias or prejudice that has not made, that's led to an inadequate attempt to recruit patients of African American descent into studies. So I think it's a multifactorial problem.
So at a time like what's going on in our country right now, how does it make you feel too? Because you've been working on this for several years, correct?
Over 3 years. Following the events actually in Ferguson, Missouri, we felt that we had to do something. And it's taken us this long to develop the materials we need to use and so on, and to actually create a structure that could function the way we wanted it to. And it honestly is a matter of coincidence of the events that have currently become explosively on the scene. We were getting ready to start, and now even more than ever, it points to the need, for this to be done. What we do matters. Well, we're doctors, we're MS specialists, so what can an MS specialist do? And this, we think, is our response.
Oh, okay, so this is from the reporter. Why do you think African Americans have a higher rate of MS, and why does the prognosis tend to be worse for them?
Well, first of all, we don't know that the prognosis is worse for sure. That's so-called opinion. There really is very little hard data to support that. It may be true, and if it is true, then there are a number of factors. Number one, it could be genetic, that there are certain genetic factors that render people more susceptible to the disease, or that the disease has a more serious course. But we can't answer that question when we also suspect that access to care, access to information has been more limited for African American people. As an example, one published study has shown that when people are finally diagnosed with MS, African American people finally diagnosed, that they are more impaired than when white people are first diagnosed. That to me suggests that there's been limited access to care, or limited access to people who are capable of making a diagnosis if they are already sicker when the diagnosis is finally made. So there's an example, and we intend to answer these questions.
Okay. What is being done to help improve the lives of MS patients here in Oregon?
Well, there are many things. First of all, we have 2 large multiple sclerosis centers, ours and OHSU, where there are people who are genuine experts in the treatment of patients with MS in both institutions, and also physicians in private practice who have a special interest in multiple sclerosis, using the best medications available, most suitable to the person's pattern of disease, taking into account risks that they may face with certain medicines, and providing a range of supportive services: bladder function, psychological support, social service needs, and so on. And we have, fortunately, in Oregon, comprehensive multiple sclerosis centers that can provide this kind of care. Our challenge really is our geography. All this takes place in Portland, but we're a very big state, and it's very difficult for some people to travel long distances. There's expense involved, and there's also the time and the energy it takes to drive from Eastern Oregon to come into Portland for a visit. And this is one of the problems that hopefully virtual visiting may help reduce to some extent. We'll see. But we have our challenges, no question about it. But we are making a very, very concerted effort, to improve the lives and reduce the risk in life of multiple sclerosis in patients who have it in Oregon and Southern Washington. And again, there are a lot of people working very hard to accomplish this.
We have higher rates of MS among people in the Northwest. Do you know if there are higher rates of African American people in the Northwest?
No, not at all. We do not know that at all. And it may be a very difficult question to answer from the scientific perspective, because the number of African American people in general in the Pacific Northwest is not very large. So if there are enough people who we can identify so that we can scientifically examine it, by all means. I suspect there are geographic differences, and that we're going to see differences around the country depending upon whether people live at least in the north versus the south. We'll see. That's a perfect question, because that's exactly what this work is about, to try to really understand the challenges that African American people with MS face and why they face those challenges and what are the best steps to take to help them, face them.
Is there anything else that I haven't asked you? I know that she wants to know any stats on numbers of MS patients. Oh no, that's what I just asked you.
Yeah. I guess the last thing I would say is we are very sincere in our desire to help the African American MS community. And I mean that with sincerity. And we hope that our efforts are viewed that way. As a white person, a person of privilege, is this just another, idea that some old white guy has? But really, we want to hear from the African American community. And if there are things that we're not doing or things that we should be doing differently, we're not going to put up a barrier to that dialogue. We want that dialogue because we sincerely want to do what's best. And any guidance we can have, any advice we can get from the community itself is something that will be very, very welcome.
Wonderful. Now we're going.
All right, we will have you start by saying and spelling your first and last name.
It's Anita Wells, ANITA WELLS.
Okay.
Anita, I'm going to have you take your sticker off for the purposes of this shoot. Perfect. Reading my mind. All this
Okay.
stuff.
So when were you diagnosed with MS?
I was 37 when I was originally diagnosed.
I'm going to have to close the door, the
Okay.
background noise. I want to keep it open, but sorry.
So you've been living with MS for how many years?
23 years, I think it is.
Okay. How has treatment changed for you over the years? We talked about on the phone that.
Originally, I was diagnosed at 37, so it wasn't this clinic that did it. It was a private physician. And I don't know that he knew a whole lot about treatment because basically once he told me what the diagnosis was, to go home and live my life. 5 years later, when I was with a different PCP, he recommended Dr. Kohan and this clinic. So I came in and made an appointment and met Dr. Kohan, and that's how that relationship started. And he's been my neurologist ever since. Originally, he had said he would have liked to have gotten me at the very beginning, of course. But fortunately for me, an MRI was done. And then he did a second MRI when I started seeing him, and there had been no change. So I was very fortunate in that respect. I started out with an injection with one type of medicine, and I did that for about 12 years. And then we switched to what I do now, which is a pill every day. And that's been about 5, almost 6 years. And no severe side effects. And the only reason we changed from the injection was because they changed the formula a little bit, and I was allergic to whatever the preservative was that they put in it. So life has been much easier. It's much easier to just pop a pill every day instead of taking a weekly injection.
And how do you feel?
I feel really good. I am also one of those fortunate ones that I basically have been in remission since even before I started taking the medicine. I had the flare at the very beginning, which made me go to the doctor and try to find out what was wrong. And then a couple of little tiny ones, but nothing really major. And since then, I've just kind of been able to live my life. I had a child after I had been diagnosed, and I have 2 sons, and they're grown now, so life's been good.
What do you think of Dr. Kohan's work to develop a registry specific to African Americans?
I think it's an awesome idea, and I hope that what they're looking to do is pretty phenomenal to me, because the African American community is not looked at the same way as the white community in that respect. So, and it is interesting how it's just a little bit different, possibly for an African American versus a Caucasian person. And Dr. Kohan mentioned about high blood pressure, how different just that piece is as far as how we are medicated versus how someone else is medicated. So I think that there's a strong possibility that that will be true with MS as well. I've met a number of people I've worked with that have had MS, or still have it of course, and they are white and they have issues that are not similar to mine. So it would be interesting to see how that all works.
Is this something you would sign up for?
Oh yeah, as soon as, he said Monday, so I will get online just so I can see how this is all going to turn out. So it'll be nice to follow.
What do you think of his reference that he thinks, or his theory that African Americans are nervous about participating in clinical trials or something like this?
I believe that. The African American community has had a rough time from the word go. And that's not to say that no one else has had a rough time. That's just in what I know. It has been a struggle, and there have been a lot of things that have progressed in a really good, positive way, and there have been a number of things that have not. And as far as medicine goes in general, I think the African American community is underserved for a lot of reasons. So I think this is a really awesome thing that they're trying to do, and I really hope it's successful.
Yeah, I mean, my last question was, why is Dr. Kohan's work so important to African Americans? But you kind of...
Yeah, it's one, to see that it's not just an African American provider, doctor, specialist, whatever you want to call him or her. I just think that there's going to be a lot of validity to it, to have neurologists from different parts of the country and different backgrounds, as well as being white and black, and being able to work together to find, it's not a matter even a cure, it's a matter of lifestyle. Because in our lifetime, there may never be a cure for this, but if they can make it so that it's much more practical and people can have a really good life, whatever that life is, would be just beyond the best to me. I've been blessed and fortunate to have a good life, and I would like to see more people, white or black, but I'd like to know that whoever you are, you have access to all of the information and all of the medication that you need. And it's not cheap, and I understand all of that, but there are a lot of programs out there, there's a lot of people out there that have the kind of heart for this and want people of all backgrounds, races, religions, it really doesn't matter, but all of us to be able to receive what we need to receive to live the best life we can live. And this is, to me, just a step forward in trying to make it better. And that's what it's really all about, is making life better. Okay.
So one's in Idaho, and the other side,
He's here.
and how's he faring?
He's fine. He's still working, but he works for Intel, so all of the regular staff is home.
Yeah.
And he's in security, so they have to stay
Yeah.
there.
So we brought one of our daughters back. She was living in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
They furloughed her from her work. He said, come on.
so we stuck her in a hotel for 2 weeks to make sure she was okay.
Right.
And then she was living with us. It's nice to have a 30-year-old. All the angst of a 30-year-old woman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Usually they're out of the house by then, so you don't get to see it. Live it.
But it's interesting.
Yes, it is.
It
Okay.
is.
So I'm gonna get my rubber hammer. That's what we'll do. Okay? All right, so I guess you tell me when you're ready to start filming us.
I'm ready, Doc. Go ahead.
Okay. So, would you please put your hands up like that? Close your eyes. Keep your eyes closed, hands up like that. Very good. Open your eyes. Hands like that. Good and strong. Please push me away. Push hard. Push hard. Now pull towards you. And pull towards you. Put your hands like that. Don't let me push them down. Spread your fingers far apart. Squeeze without bending. And you know the routine. Okay, please raise your left leg. Keep it there. Right leg. Pull your heel towards you. Pull hard. Pull hard. Now I think what we'll have to do is take your right hand and just do that. Left hand. Left hand. Now you think the champion at work. All right, let's do this. And touch my finger. Touch your nose. Same thing on the left. Touch your nose. I think that should be enough, Eric?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Just chit chat for just a second longer.
No.
We
We can avoid that part. That would be great.
Yeah, we were filming it and he scratched her on her foot and she punched him in the left eye.
I wouldn't do that.
Well, rather, how have you been doing?
Not too bad. Just kind of trying to deal with all of the stuff.
Uh-huh.
Being a caregiver to my mom, who's in the early stages of kidney.
Yeah, I do that.
So that's,
Now, where is she? Is she living with you?
yeah,
Yeah.
she is. And, you know, still being a wife and a mom and trying to work full time and
That's
so it's a lot.
You got good kids, that means everything.
Yeah.
And these families with children are a problem, adult children especially, it's just
We-
a nightmare.
Yeah, we talked about that the other night, how glad we are that we
Yeah,
don't
we-
have to have the little kids and the schooling and the working and,
We have two parental, four grandkids, two locally, and so it's impossible. One's 8, one's 6. They both want simultaneous attention. So my wife and my daughter are trying to split. For the homeschooling, one takes one kid, one takes the
Yeah.
other, and that's how they do it.
well, and that's about the only way to do it because they're on different levels. So
Is that-
to be able to,
Could also be a latitude to do it. I mean, imagine they are one, especially if the woman doesn't have a husband,
right,
she's got a couple of kids. How terrible.
yeah.
How terrible.
Great.